a motion to accept or review, accept the minutes of 7:10? Anybody?
We can hold off on doing that.
Okay. Somebody to make a motion to accept the minutes. I say so moved.
So moved.
Okay.
I didn't see the latest. I guess they made the changes, eh?
The changes that I asked about, I think, are in there.
Yeah, okay. Second.
Minutes are good. Next meeting, September 11th. Going back to 6 PM, okay? Other correspondence. We've got some letters, right?
There were.
Can I interrupt here? Because it's about the September meeting. I think by then you will all have the draft of the comp plan, so can we make sure that's number one on the agenda for your input? Or we can do a special meeting.
Let me know when it's ready, right?
It's coming your way.
Who did we get letters from? Who hadn't before?
We got to,
DeCarlo?
I think she wrote it.
And Bobby Lane. Anyhow.
Was Bonnie Lane here? Oh, hi, okay. We'll let you make a presentation on your own, is that okay? Okay. And briefing by the town board liaison.
Yeah, the only thing I have is an email from Peter Ganley. Peter Ganley is an assistant to Nick Voloda. He's the new congressman that represents our district. And it is a reference to Real Point. I'll read just the first 3 sentences of it. There is no existing USACE, which is the United States Army Corps of Engineers project at Real Point. That's the opening line. We prepared a federal interest determination for potential Section 103 Continuing Authorities Program, that's CAP, Shoreline Protection Project, which was disapproved by our division office as a coastal storm risk management project. Disapproved. The action is back to the New York District to review a potential resubmit as an ecosystem restoration project if the town of Shelter Island is interested in pursuing it. The town wants to minimize the overwash to prevent breaching with a mitigation component to mimic the spit pollution. It basically wants us to talk more about habitat restoration, ecosystem restoration, and those things. I will give you a copy of this, John. I only have a few copies. Okay. All right. So therefore, what Joe and I did about a month ago was when Karen, I believe her name is, from the Army Corps of Engineers, asked us those 4 questions about, specifically about habitat restoration and ecosystem restoration. We addressed those. I don't know why they're not in sync, but I'm going to try to find out from Joe tomorrow if he's been in contact with her at all, because he's been acting as our liaison with the Army Corps, since he's going to continue the project into the next few years, hopefully. And we'll see what happens. I think we've really kind of gone through.
Our 200,000 plus investment in habitat restoration in Coppell's Harbor this year should be front and center in this application. Habitat restoration in Coppell's Harbor is important to us.
250,000.
I think because we did the original,
Okay.
yeah, with the original reef.
Oh, right.
And now we have the eelgrass plus the reef plus some clam strewing.
Yep.
Biggest eelgrass meadow in the Peconics.
Yeah.
It's to be protected. In the country?
It's pretty significant.
So I'll discuss this I'll keep you appraised on this, but I just want you to understand. I was out there for the full moon last week, and I would say that we're on par with the amount of loss of eastern shoreline. It's significant, you know, from what it was in January. Take a look at the pictures in January, how wide that spit was compared to the way it is today. It is a significant change. A lot of that material, and the spit has gotten longer. You know, so when they've shortened it up near the signs, by the way, I wanted to mention the signage. You always complained that you couldn't read it because it was too far back. Well, it wasn't so far back originally when they dredged. Now it is because you've added another 60 feet of sand at the end of the point, at least, maybe more. And the other thing is, I have to mention this to Brian Sherman, the weeds have grown up so that they're a third of the way up the sign. So you read the top part of the sign, you can't read the bottom parts of the sign. Somebody from Highway needs to go out there and re-whack that, and just cut it down. So the signs, even though they're back a little bit, are in fact visible. That's all I have.
That's not great news.
That's what.
This isn't great news.
No, it's not great news, but you know, it is what it is. I don't know why. I thought we were a finalist with Greenport, you know, when they were gonna sponsor these two projects. And we fared well, and then I don't know what happened. Senate passed it. The House hadn't passed the allocation for the money for the new study. They don't mention anything about a new study. I've asked in emails about whether the Army Corps will do a new study for Real Point. I haven't gotten anything back. All I've gotten back from them now through Peter Ganley, when I talked to him on the telephone, was the fact that we need to resubmit the proposal again.
When,
Reflecting this kind of, well, I'll talk to Joe about that tomorrow.
what happened with the Greenport applicant?
I don't know.
2 weeks ago, when Senator Gillibrand was on the island, did anybody approach this with her?
No. You know?
I don't know if
I don't know, I didn't know she was on the island, so I didn't know she was coming. Just so happens Peter Ganley, I coached his father, and I said, Peter Ganley from Car Place, he says, yes, that's my father, so. His father very, very well, so Peter and I had a nice conversation. Car Place, but I think I have been in with Peter here, and he did mention Amber's name several times, so. See if he's received those things that we sent back, so we'll send him a copy of what we sent back to the Army Corps. Anyhow, that's it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So all I got is, I just keep bringing this up because I'm very proud of it. Another excellent water report came through last Wednesday. It was posted at 2 a.m. Almost undetectable levels. Even Darien Harbor was, right? For those of you who follow that. What else? Oh, Rob from the Peconic, from Chidwin called me to, the moorings that were placed out there were not placed according to the original diagrams. And he helped to reassure me that that's going to be rectified.
We approved them for 8 moorings, he's got 4 in there, and the 4, he's said, I was in contact with him this afternoon, that that's been satisfying their needs for the most part.
Yeah.
That may adjust next year, but for the most part, between the dock and the 4 moorings, they seem to be getting along very well. But we did approve them for 8. They need a little bit more data, they want to run it through the entire August and September to see what happens, and then maybe readjust that number for next year. But he realizes that he's been in contact with Bo about putting them in the locations that were approved.
Right.
They're being used when I go by.
They are being used. He said, according to him, far less boat traffic, which is what you said this morning at this morning meeting. Far, far less boat traffic in front of the place, so. But he has, they have used them, and of the 6 people that have spent overnight, 4 of them have used the moorings, and 2 of them remained on the dock. So they've had 6 people in the whole season so far actually stay overnight. They came by boat, and they're running pretty well.
They stayed overnight on the boat?
No, they're not allowed to stay on the boat.
That's what I thought.
No, but they stayed in-house. But, you know, it's not a ton of people that this is impacting. But business has been picking up, and the numbers reveal that because he told me not to So I won't, but business is doing much better, obviously, as the season goes on. July was good, August is even better.
No, I'm glad that that's working out, but it needs to be, he said it might need fine tuning and now it does, so it's kind of what we were expecting. Okay, that's it for me. I don't know why we have old business on top of new business, so I'm gonna start with new business, which is the Hogan dock application. Am I gonna mess up this pile?
That's got nothing to do with it.
It is. I'm sorry. Why can't I find it in the pile?
You want this one?
Was that from last time?
That's from last time. You want this one?
No, I got it from last time. But the wrong thing. So, Mr. Hogan is looking to pull a float.
There's that application.
More splashboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you tell me.
Oh, okay.
So Mr. Hogan wants to replace his boat lift because it's existing boat lift there. So it's going to be a slightly different model. It's going to be a cradle lift as opposed to a elevator lift. So the difference is the elevator lift has a beam that goes into the ground and it rides up and down inside that beam. The beams don't last very long, they rot out. So he's going to go to a cradle lift that gets completely lifted out of the water in basically the same location.
But it requires 2 pilings?
Yeah, it requires 2 more miles because there's a 4-point lift and it lifts the whole cradle out of the water. So it's like there's no metal sitting in the water. The elevator style lift, the beams go down into the ground and there are the tracks that ride the car. This only lasted 10, 12 years. And so he doesn't want to go down that route again. And then there was to add a float, splash board around the outside, and then removed the 2 big dolphins on the west side of the dock as a give back. So the lift, this is out towards Point.
Joe, I'm looking for the application here. Is the application buried in here and I'm not seeing it?
You already got it last one.
It's all Marco Birch.
Oh, so that was in last.
I didn't get a copy.
I didn't get a copy of that one.
I had it below RAM in my stack.
Well, this boat lift, is it taller than what's,
No.
originally it had 2 davits, right? Originals,
That was the original. This actually be lower than the lower profile than the elevator lift, because you can actually lift the car almost up to the top. So it'll actually be less of an eyesore, I guess. They last a lot longer, this, in order to install. And so that, I mean, that's just a straight up switch and then just adding the float, splashboard.
Boat that he had there before?
Yeah, I don't know where the float ever came from, but he wants to legalize that, and he's willing to remove the dolphins on the west side.
Blamed the float on you last time.
No, he didn't.
and the splashboard is doubling up on what's existing.
Right. It's just an extra layer of splashboards, and that's the way all the docks used to be out, on one of the applications we're going to discuss, but down the green lawns, and on like the Silver Beach area, like by Burgess House, they all used to have double wave curves.
But we're still stuck with the way the code is written now, that this is a non-conforming dock. It was given relief when it was constructed, and you're not allowed to modify it
I thought
unless you make it more conforming.
we're going to remove the dolphins.
You're supposed to make it less non-conforming. You're taking out 2 dolphins and putting back in 2 dolphins. And then you're adding splashboards and you're looking to legalize float that was put in with, I have a problem with that when something gets put in and now you come back, it's like, oh, you already did it.
I didn't do it. So
I know, but yeah, the owner of the property is responsible, not you.
So where do you suggest we take this? Seems like a pretty, minimal alteration.
That's,
Like I said, the boat lift is gonna be lower profile than the one that's there, you know?
See the splashboards as minimal. I don't see the float as a minimal issue. I have a real issue with that float situation. He came in here, we specifically told him, he was asking for an arrangement like this. We told him no, we told him to put in a mooring instead, he did, and then came back and all of a sudden there's a float there. So it's not the right approach to take, and I don't think we should be rewarding people who try to go around proper procedure.
I don't think he was going around it, he probably said no proper procedure. Like I said, it might not even have been him, it could have been his handyman, I have no idea what the float came from. But whatever, I mean, this is the bridge I got across. So, I mean, how do you feel the proper way to proceed with this is?
Excuse me one second, so you're taking out 2 dolphins, then you're adding 2 pilings for the lift
Yeah, we're removing,
and 2 pilings for the float.
secure the float. And the splashboards to reinforce the splashboards that's there.
Why would the float require a reinforcement?
The splashboards.
No, why does the float require reinforcement? It isn't attached to the dock.
It's just tied there. It's just lashed there. 2 pilings to hold it in position.
So then so the application is for 2 more for dolphins to assist in that, or is that
Just two piles to hold the float position.
so therefore they're there to hold the float and they're not for a separate tie-up?
I run over some of the original applications. There was 6 different variations on it. It looked as though the L is at a lower elevation than the main dock.
Yep.
So in a high tide situation where you had the trouble with the boat flipping over and the waves overwashing the dock, the splashboard isn't going to help that. It's still going to overwash. Yeah, it's likely. Lower tide situation, and I guess that would be more like a northwest wind problem here.
I think when the boat flipped, that was just one of those things where.
That was just bad.
That was just some bad luck, I think. You know, I mean, partially, we're trying to remediate that with the additional splashboard.
Well, I mean, is the additional splashboard actually gonna,
The L is a step down, like 2 steps down from the main dock.
Well, now the splashboard's gonna come to the top of the dock. It's gonna be fastened to the top stringer and the bottom stringer, put a bottom stringer in. So it'll actually come up to the top of that lower L, and then the dock around the corner.
so
So the splashboard's gonna come to the top of the
the
dock.
new splashboard, are they gonna go down as well? Or are they gonna just be?
They have to be at least 2 feet above the ground by DEC.
Right, but they are gonna go down as well.
They'll go down to the depth of the other ones.
The President, what's the length of the dock? They're the length of the
It
whole.
was like 140.
Yeah, it's,
There was a, when this was.
My measurement from the satellite photo was substantially longer. So I'm just wondering what the engineers are saying. I came up with 230 from the ramps from the shore. I don't know how, but that mapped, whether I'm not, I don't want that as the be all the end all because that's from the photo.
it's like 130 for mean high water. Oh, mean high water is. It's about 175 feet of mean high water.
Is that with the L included or no?
Well, you're just talking about the overall length?
Yeah, the length, the overall length.
The original dock was built application. Relief was granted because there was a lot of boulders there, which made it difficult to build a
To
dock.
get out around them.
And the fact that he's got, I don't know what the exact number is, maybe 1,000 feet of shoreline, and there was going to be 1 dock associated with that, seemed to support granting some relief for that. But now to come back and want even more relief when the code specifically rewrote it and says, oh, we need to bring it more into compliance, it's not working for me.
I don't have a problem with
taking the pile, removing 2 piles and putting 2 piles into, for the replacement of the lift.
I would like,
The lift, I have no problem with. The splash boards and float, I mean, like we said, we really went overboard when we first let them have this dock. I was, I think it was just a bad place to leave a boat when when that boat flipped. So now he has a mooring, which is a better thing.
yeah, in the original application, I went through in the town clerk's office, there's a whole big hardship letter of how awful the conditions are there. That hasn't changed. Awful.
Seems to me it's one of those locations where maybe a dock should have never been okay to begin with.
I'm in a Waterways meeting now.
This dock gets a lot of usage. I'm sure you see Rich's boat there all the time. So,
I mean, the boat, they keep a boat on it, or 2.
yeah, 2 and have one in the morning.
Right. So, that's not the question. It is usable.
And now the float just appeared out of nowhere that nobody knows what the history is behind the float?
Just showed up there. Nobody knows how it got there.
So are the 2 pilings to secure the float or for the lift?
Both. There's 4 pilots.
We're removing,
4 pilings.
yeah, we're removing,
There's a net increase of 2 pilots.
we're removing 4. The ones that are dolphins, the 2 pile dolphins out there.
Oh,
We're
okay.
only putting 4 piles back in.
Okay.
So we're really not expanding on that. And the additional splash board is more of a safety thing. That doesn't affect anybody besides him.
Wait, so you're replacing, I thought my impression was that you're replacing 2 piles that are associated with the dock that also then serve the lift, and then there are also the dolphins, so you're pulling 2 out and then putting 2 in. Is that, like, basically you're replacing?
We're taking
dock piles?
we're taking 4 piling out and putting 4 piling in.
There are two
Sorry,
piling
dolphins?
dolphins.
Yes.
So that's where the 4 pilings come in.
I would go with James, with taking the 2 dolphins out and putting in the lift. Next.
How about the splash board?
I don't think that's the problem. The problem is the L is lower than the main dock, and the tide just overwashes it. And the splash board, unless you're going to elevate the splash board above the dock, I don't think it's going to make any difference personally. Whips might work. I'm not recommending them, I'm just saying they might.
Would you consider letting them raise the L?
Why does the L drop down? Why,
Makes to make it easier to use.
easier to get to boat level?
Yeah.
To the float that magically appeared?
Or a boat that magically appears, one or the other.
It's the magic carpet.
But I guess I'll have to speak with him, so we might as well table this application so I can speak to Rich. Kind of like give him a little direction on this.
We sort of said that we're gonna try to hold to when there's non-conforming thing, we're trying not
Yeah, I don't
go
think this,
past the code.
this doesn't make it any more conforming.
A compelling reason to do it. And, I have, like I said, I have no problem with the swapping out the pilings for the new lift, and, maybe reinforcing the existing splash boards or something, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, the plan is to bring the splash boards up to the top of the dock. That's the idea, give them a little more protection.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to Rich and see how he wants to proceed with this.
He does have there's a storm situation, although the problem is that these storms come up in the middle of the night. So it's not, he's got the mooring, he can move the boat to, or keep the boat at the mooring and then bring it in to the L section when he's going to be using it. I don't know. That's up to him.
So the purpose, I guess, is to make it more user-friendly. That's why the modification, it's not because the dock has deteriorated or
The dock's not deteriorating.
No, the dock's fine.
it's that it wants to make it more user-friendly.
Yeah, it's splash boards that knock down the waves, and, what's there is just not, it needs to be.
Okay, it's not because anything's got to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
So basically, the question is allowing a non-conforming dock to change.
Yeah.
Whether you want to allow it to be more non-conforming or you want to hold it to be,
I can't hear you.
whether you want it to be less non-conforming or you want to allow it to be more non-conforming.
I'm not asking that. I'm just, the whole discussion is to making a non-conforming dock more usable to the owner.
Jack, I don't think.
That's why he's applied. That's the reason he applied.
That's what's being discussed.
I mean, timing wise, here we are in approaching mid-August, so it's a kind of a moot point for 2023. I think he's thinking about 2024. So you have some concerns that you've written down. Can't we allow Jack to go back? So if he's willing to address some of those concerns, then come back and, we move on.
Sure, question. I didn't see splash boards in the code. Am I right about that? Or am I just going too fast as usual? Do not, okay.
No reference at all to them.
No reference, okay.
I think it'll also be helpful to, if you're asking, to find out how whether he knows how the float got there.
He doesn't.
And I think that's the biggest mess.
Somebody tied it on.
Since last meeting is, we're not declaring a moratorium, but I think that the 7 people that sit on this board are not interested in entertaining anything that enhances the nonconformity of any existing docks. So I think unless he's gonna, rethink this thing, significantly, I don't know, you may have to wait until the board decides on what they're gonna do with the future of the docks, because it seems to be in violation of the very thing we talked about for a long time last meeting.
So let me just get back with Rich and just hold on this one. Yeah, I gotta see what he wants to do. I'll put it.
Okay, the next new business item is the Branson Hurt dock application. Is that you, Jack, or what?
Well, Jack, you requested that we table this, not hold the public hearing tomorrow. Because we did have it scheduled.
Okay.
Okay?
I want to get these guys' view on it, just to see what they think about it.
This is how.
This is also, oh my God. It's 142 feet from mean high water, but it stays 60 feet inside the pier line.
How many feet?
60. Just a little check.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, 2 docks next to it are huge.
One of them
Where is it on the shoreline?
is, it's by the landing, again, South Ram Island, or south,
South of the beach.
Okay, so this dock is 60 feet inside the pier line of the 2 neighboring docks and only achieving 3 feet of water.
The one at 31 is 198 feet on the front.
And by the pool, the house with the pool? Both, they all have pools, sorry.
I think this right here is the ramp. This is the town landing right here, and this is 31 Brander. That's 198 feet, I think. And so I think they're right here.
So it wants to be right there.
Right there.
Side of W.
The dock to the, I guess it'd be the north, 193 feet, seaward to high tide. And the dock to the south is 204 feet. And so, we're still getting out to like a navigable water depth at 142 feet. But like I said, 60 feet within the pier line.
So this, Silver Beach guy, this dock here is on a very narrow bit of shoreline,
There's no house associated.
right?
Right.
So that's why this spacing looks equal, and this looks like a cram, because this shoreline is,
Yeah, it's a vacant lot that goes with the house
associated with that.
Correct. Across the
further
street.
north, or,
Next lot.
No, it's not the vacant, lot, there's a house.
no, not the one you're applying.
Oh, the other one, yes.
One next door.
Yeah. Existing dock.
We're trying to squeeze another guy in here.
Right.
And it's about like 100 feet to the one dock and about 75 feet to the other dock.
And if we only went 100 feet, then
He'd be in no water.
2.1 feet.
Yeah, it's 100 feet to the northern dock. Like 85 feet.
Al Loretto lives right down the block from this. You might have some feelings about this.
Al, you got anything you want to comment on this one?
Well, we talked about addressing the dock code, and this is one area that we might consider addressing, is that the pier line is kind of an important issue, and it's addressed in other towns, and maybe we should look at it in our town. Every dock along that shoreline is well over 100 feet. They don't interfere with navigation. They're not a problem. And I don't see a problem with what he is asking for, but, and also, that you got two adjacent docks that are going out much further. I think we have to consider his application. And I think that is something that we should address. We're talking about addressing the code. That's one area that there are two major areas that we need to address. One is the lengths that we allow in outside shores and the pier line. I think the two things that need to be dealt with. And I hope my microphone was on for that. Was it?
And this has a float or no float?
No float, it's just a straight line. It's 150 overall, 142 feet from mean high water. It's an open pile lot.
At 100 feet, how much water? Did we have a line?
2.1.
2.1.
Just add it on the scale on the computer.
I can't get on board while the code is written, how the code is written. I'm tired of making exceptions without doing it fairly or.
I agree with Al that we need to address all these items, and that's the whole point. That's why I tried to push for a moratorium so we could deal with all this without applications continuing to come in that go against the code. I would vote against it because I think it's clearly way beyond what the code permits, but after reviewing each area of the shoreline, we may find that there are areas where no docks should be permitted and other areas where docks that currently are not permitted might be permitted. It's just, we won't know until we go through that process. But under the current circumstances, I would say it's easy for me to deny it.
I mean, would it be rational to table it rather than deny it so the guy doesn't have to start all over again?
How long before it goes stale?
With the DEC permit? Probably 4 years. DEC is good for 5. But hopefully we can come to a resolution before then.
Hopefully by this,
With an
in
action.
the next couple, hopefully we can hash out some of this stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts about it, and I kind of got them.
And I think it falls right into what we've been talking about. Just-
Yeah, it's exactly what we're talking about, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's
There's a need to get things updated and making sense in certain areas. There's no one size fits all in Shelter Island.
That's why we always
different.
That's why I always come here.
There's so many
Make
committees.
some sense of it.
I pulled or asked the clerk to pull up the permit history for 31, the 204-foot dock next, and it sort of followed a similar progression. It was 100 feet initially, and 150, and then 200, and I'm presuming they're trying to get out to deeper water, and then they added in two dolphins off the side. And then I think there's a float, so you can see sort of that expansion, shape. I mean, I'm sure, because there's an active boat on there now. I went over and checked that out. But I think it's, to the point, it's like we need to think about, okay, if we permit a dock for here, and then it becomes usable, then there's a dock out there should we extend? So I think that should be part of that whole process. Like, what are we trying to accomplish, and what are we willing, what are we getting ourselves into when somebody says, I've got this asset I can't use anymore.
That was the next door neighbors started at 100.
They started off at 100, yeah, in the late 70s, and then it was. I think it made it to 200. I think early to mid 90s. I have a whole other separate question about the dolphins, but that's not for this. It's not for this one.
Okay.
Maybe you can change the pier line by shortening all your docks.
Yeah.
Donate. And
Are you just gonna table this for now?
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to table this for now. Like I said, maybe when you do how far along you guys with the new code?
Going a means.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years, right?
Years, that's the same. I think it's going on it sort of.
yeah. All
I'd
right,
say that I did start plotting on that front. Just
the next new business is the birch dock application. Filing
He's
16.
moving
12.
pilings around is what he's doing.
Can you zoom in more on that?
I think this is a typo on the material. It says piling 16 12-inch green hearts. Supposed to be 6 maybe? 1, 2, 5, 6.
No, it's 8 total piling.
Must just be a typo.
These are just tie-off pilings for existing. Boat dock still are there. These are just tie-off piles. The boat's just getting hanged up.
What's he trying to accomplish?
Safely moor his boat at the dock.
No tie-off piling, so when,
The only change here is we're adding tie-off piles. That's it.
so the existing is there aren't any at all.
No. Then the boat's getting trashed. This dock is subject to the southwest wind. It's on kind of like the middle of the ramp.
Yeah.
On the face of Cockles Harbor Marina. So,
There's pilings on the north side, right?
no, there's no tie-off piles on the dock.
Didn't it say remove piling somewhere? Remove 3?
They're associated with the existing float.
Are you just replacing the ones on the float in kind?
Yeah. And just adding the tie-off
Are you
piles.
getting destroyed as well with the dock movement and all? Is that what the problem
It's
is?
been a long time. I can't remember when I built the dock, but it was, 25 years ago, maybe. They've been there for quite some time.
so the float is beyond the 200 square foot allowance. The overall length, I'm not sure.
10 feet, maybe?
Yeah, it's 100, I get 110 feet on the length.
Certainly, I'm going to make a comment about the conditions here because I'm familiar with it, and then I'm going to recuse myself because I do business with the app, take care of it. So, certainly, the Northwest can get pretty, a lot of wind, especially in the fall. And if you wanted to put a bigger boat in here, you need those tie-off pilings. He hasn't had a big boat in there for a long time. Most of them have been small boats. In the Southwest, yeah, every once in a while it can blow up. I think you might be able to solve some of this if you put some proper fendering, use those mooring balls. But there might be other solutions. And now I'm going to recuse myself. You guys figure it out.
I mean, this is just a clear matter of boat safety. It's just it's just adding some piling. I mean, is there something you'd like me to do to remediate the situation?
Well, as John pointed out, it's non-conforming. So we're back to the same situation. In the flow.
Could I say something as well?
Is that Marco?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when I built the dock, it was conforming, of course. We didn't ask for an exception. And I would also point out that there's about 700 feet of beachfront there. And I gave the rights to build 2 more docks to the town in exchange for nothing. I also put the land on both sides of the house in environmental easement. So I've been consciously careful and contributing to, the environment in Cockles Harbor. And, we're trying to build a sturdier dock and hold the boats off the dock. And so I just, wanted to say those things in terms of what the history was and what we're trying to accomplish.
The high tide line has changed. So due to rising tides and maybe a little bit of erosion. But, the dock was 100 feet at the time that it was built, 25 years ago. Now, due to erosion and rising tides, now the dock is 110 feet seaward of high tide. So that's just nature that we can't control.
About the float size, I don't know. Float's over 200 feet on 100 square feet.
Like I said, it was a long time ago.
Look, in this day and age, if someone has 3 lots on the water and more than 600 feet on the water, and they came to the committee and said, I'd like to put 1 dock that's minimus non-conforming and relinquish the rights to build 2 more docks on the harbor, we would jump at it. We did it with Hogan at St. Gabe's when he wanted to have the longer dock. And he was willing to sacrifice the 2 other docks in order to do it. And we thought that was a gigantic win for the harbor. And here we have someone who was beneficial to the island without asking for anything, just giving away the rights to it in order to maintain the pristine condition of the island and the harbor. And I think if he didn't do that then, if he would have turned around now and said, well, I'll give up the 2 docks in exchange for getting a couple of piling, we jump on it.
Yeah, I agree with
I don't agree
Mark.
with Mark, but I agree with that today.
Yeah, I mean, typically we say, and we have always said, if you have something that's non-conforming and you're willing to give up something, or that will remediate that issue, then we would think positively on that. And I think this case definitely warrants that. And thank you for your input.
Thank you for listening.
Is this something that to be accomplished with, as with, I guess, with Hogan report, with the mooring instead of the piling?
No. It needs to be solid. But, the one thing I can say, the dock itself has a little bump out on it for a bench area. And I understand Bill's problem with the non-conformity of the float. But if we removed that area of the stationary dock, we're dropping the square footage almost the same amount as the non-conformity of the float. You know what I'm saying? So you're saying the float is 40 square feet over. And by removing that platform, that 36 square foot platform, we're getting closer to the square footage of the conformity. Like I said, Marco gave up his right to build 2 other docks, which is, huge on a conservation piece of property. Yep.
So he's okay with the bump out being taken out?
Yeah, I understand Bill's point about trying to get, back to or out, I gotta get back closer to conformity. And, by giving up the square footage of the stationary dock, I think it'd make you guys feel better about the float being a non-conforming structure. Like I said, this dock was 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
We're
I
going to
mean,
run
I would certainly do that. If the choice, if there was a choice to be made between that and relocating the mooring, I'd probably rather relocate the mooring, but I, of course, want to cooperate with you. And so if your choice would be to narrow the existing dock, I would do it, but just stating a preference, but I do want to cooperate.
So if we're in this situation, this proposed situation, adding in essentially the 5 tie-up points. So we're adding in substantial amount of linear distance. I think that takes it above the 150% of the 100 feet. Is that how we calculate it?
That with tie-off pilings, I believe.
I think that's what the code.
It can't be any wider than.
It includes the tie-offs, but I didn't do the measurements.
I don't know how I don't know how the tie-off has been calculated in the past or included in the process, but I mean, it is there in the code.
Well, I think
It says linear distance of the ramps, the loads, the catwalks, and linear distance to tie up pilings.
Well, I can say that I think somewhere deep in the code, it says it can only be 50 feet overall. So, I mean, we're at right now. Yeah.
Being 6.
We're at.
So with the tie, so with distance.
Well, we're at 53 feet. We're at 53 feet, so I could pull in. No, I could pull the dolphins in 3 feet to make sure it's, adheres to the code. But the 50 feet overall.
So I guess my question is, and this is for, for everybody on board, is if there are, so there are 3 tie-up pilings on this north side, is it 28 feet plus 28 feet plus 28 feet, or is it just 28 feet?
As far as it goes, I mean, I think it's extension.
So it's
It
extension.
doesn't multiply each piling.
So it's not
piling.
So it's not area.
Right, no,
I mean,
it's length, linear.
it's just linear. So I mean, so you would, but so if you had, so it'd be the same measurement for 1 tie-up piling versus 3 tie-up, it would still be the same
I
number.
mean, rarely do you have just one tie-up piling.
If it makes it easier, I could just put in additional fendering on the north side of the dock, and we could apply for the dolphins, on the south side of the dock, and put the dolphins only on the north side of the dock, if that made it easier and less necessary to narrow the dock. But it's another piece that we could probably deal with in terms of how you're thinking about good outcomes for you.
That's a big change.
Yeah, I'm trying to cooperate with you and also think
no,
about my
we
own
get it, we get
prioritization. Yeah. So it's like the pilings on the north side would be number 1. I guess keeping the dock in the basic same shape it is would be number 2, and then giving up the south side pilings and then the positioning of the mooring. So however you see fit and fair, I would be willing to obviously accept that.
Marco, what are the things that you gave up
trying to get
for the town? Could you reiterate those for us? The things that you had recently or in the past had given up for the town?
Oh, sure, Al.
From the beginning, yeah.
So sure. So they're just 2 different things. So one was it's about 6 acres. It's about almost 3 acres at each side into conservation easement. Obviously, I benefited from that at the time because of the tax break, but I did do it.
Right.
And that was 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. What I also did when I applied for this dock, which was conforming at the time, we applied for the dock. Costello built it. They also redid the bulkheading. Even though it was conforming, I gave up the right to build docks, which was done before the easement, on either of the other 2 pieces of land to the town. So you could have put in at least 3 docks. I can't remember it's just shy of 8 acres in there.
We would have jumped at that deal
Thank you.
if it happened all at once. We would have
Yeah.
been a slam dunk.
Yeah. Right.
I think if we remove that bench,
Give Marco his tie-off filing so he can protect his boats. You know, based on, and not out of nowhere, but based on what he's given back in terms of a non-conforming, he's given back to the environment. He's saved us from having 2 other docks and property that could be, 2 other properties that could be built on. As Mark said, it's a slam dunk.
All right.
You were saying something about.
You want to call that, is that your vote?
I can't vote. I can't vote because
Okay.
I'm not present, but I'll be more than happy to start the volley and let you guys weigh in. And if you would like, I'd be happy to do that.
So Al, you're saying that you'd be okay with the thing as drawn?
Yes.
where you want to go?
James?
Well, you were making a comment
I'll start on the right side of the room. So with
I'll bring it
James.
up when I get,
Yeah.
Good.
I'll go. I think, given size of the property, you know, it's not, there's no impact to neighbors on either side. Given the givebacks that were done, not dissimilar from what that was done with Pandion. And given the fact that, you know, that they've agreed to pull the pilings in.
Well, so you would condition on pulling the pilings in, and what about the bench? Is it,
Well, I would either trade the bench or the south pilings. I mean, either one, you know, I mean, you could either have the south pilings and take the bench away, or get rid of the south pilings and just have the north pilings and leave the bench. So I would vote in that way.
Matt?
I think that, I mean, I certainly appreciate the willingness to walk for this, and the sort of with obviously the committee in the past and the town in the past, and here as well. I think in terms of the sort of the non-conforming aspect of things, we are sort of at the max, and I think if there's a real give back of that bench area, that's a change too, and so I think I look at that as a give back as opposed to less of an additional ask. Because now there aren't the tie-up filings. It sounds like there is a real need for them. So I think if the northern pilings, if that was the preference, I think one side or the other, and then the give back of that bench. And I think, you know, I think we do want to really work on this holding to the, you know, what's in the code. I think we don't we need to be absolute sticklers for that. But I think that's important to be like, we're working within reason. So I think.
You're saying, you know, if bench gone and both sets of tie-up pilings, okay? Or just
one set of
one
pilots
set?
and then one set of pilots, yeah. So I think the bench is a meaningful.
We're gonna keep track of.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is getting kind of tough to keep
Right.
track of. Matt, you're okay with north pilings and a bench, but not the south pilings. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, he's not good with the bench, not good with the south pilings.
Right.
Oh, okay, so only the north pilings, okay.
basically have two give-ups on the table that are optional. It's either you give up both, or you give up one, or you give up the other. I mean, that's,
Okay,
I-
all right.
Well,
I just
I'll
wonder how
confuse
many
it-
acres.
I'll confuse it more.
What's that?
I'm in favor of pilings on both sides because you get wind sometimes from the northeast and sometimes from the northwest and sometimes from the southwest. So I think the pilings are helpful on both sides. If we'd like something given up, being very selfish, I'd like to have the mooring moved in landward, because in case global warming reverses, when we go ice boating out there, that mooring is a little far out there, and it would be better if it were closer inshore.
in wintertime, yeah.
Turning
The
mark.
morning's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself here, okay?
Let's not get more involved.
Thank
All
you. Tom,
I'm just wondering, why is it that the northern dolphins are so far away from the dock? Why was 28-foot chosen?
That's for the larger boat to go in.
That's for,
Like I said, we can move them in so they're conforming to the 50-foot part of the code.
yeah.
And it seems like we're all kind of voting on different things. But
Yeah, because I think everybody's.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what I propose to do is leave the dolphins and remove the platform with the bench. Move the mooring in, so it's not a navigational obstruction. So we'll move the mooring, we'll get rid of the bench, and we'll put the 8 piling in.
At 50.
Closer in, at 50 feet.
At 50 feet as opposed to 50, it's drawn up as 53. So
Okay.
it's drawn up at 50 feet.
I would go with Jack's recommendation.
I would go with that.
That's what I would have to say.
That's fine.
You're still fighting, of course, with the nonconformity of it, but he's given up a lot in the past, obviously.
He's given up a ton.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
a ton is more appropriate,
Bill,
yeah.
I didn't, and I didn't get either one of you were saying, I just want to be able to get.
I just said I would go along with Jack's proposal.
Just said.
Yeah, but he just said, yeah, move them pilings
Jack,
in
could you,
50-foot.
could you repeat, could we get, or I'm sure Christina's taking notes with this. Could you just repeat what you're gonna do, Jack, or what you're recommending?
Where you propose to move the mooring inshore so it's not a navigational hazard. Remove the
Right.
bench area to drop the square footage of the overall structure, because the
Right.
float's not conforming. And then put the additional 5 dolphins in.
Okay, got it.
At 50 feet.
At 50
Yeah.
feet,
Wider than 50
Okay.
feet.
yeah.
All right. So do we have consensus on that? Can we go back around one more time? James,
I'm good with that proposal.
Matt,
Okay.
As usual, I agree with James.
okay, Tom?
Yeah,
Yeah, and Billy.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, so you got five vote. All right, I guess we can invite John back in the room. And thank you for everybody.
Thank you
Matt?
all for being gracious about looking at things that happened in the past. You certainly didn't need to do that. And I appreciate you looking at the spirit of things rather than just strictly the letter of how things are written. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, you all. Now I can retire. Thanks, Al.
Okay,
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Good night.
We got
Next.
All right.
Mr. Prager's revised dock application. Two. Guys all got that? So the revised calls for constructing a plain Jane 4 by 100-foot fixed dock, no splashboard. There's a stairway, bulkhead to the dock, stairs on the beach, bench, and two pile dolphins.
Is there any beach to use the stairs with?
Is there any beach to use there?
At low tide, it was just more of an access thing, because, back in the old days, I just wanted to make sure we were doing everything right. It's just access. People, at this point, we don't know what the sand is gonna do, come or go, but people can walk under the dock.
Once we cut
Nobody's
the
walking up and down that beach, but, put the access stairs in there. Just for egress.
Well, a long time ago, when this question came up, I was told that you could walk across the top of somebody's bulkhead, continue along the shoreline. Is that just old folklore?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
I mean, the reality is nobody's walking along.
That's not unsafe.
Well, this goes way back to Cockle Summer Marina. It's all the dogs coming in, so we put gates up at the bulkhead. They're telling them, no, you can't put gates there. You need to be able to access, since we can't go through, since there's no beach there, we need to go across your bulkhead. That's where I got that from.
Jack, just no splashboard, just 2 dolphins.
Yeah, just a straight, it's an open pile dock and
A length of the dock,
100 feet.
No lift.
one last
not this go around.
Yeah, and I can make my comments last. If there's anybody else who wants to speak, I'll go last.
This is kind of what we were asking for, is something to comply with the code. I still have grave concerns about the exposure to the southwest and the viability and the safety of having a boat tied up there. I just think it's an awful location. This fetch to the nearest point of land is Southampton. It's like 18 miles away of open water to there. So the waves are coming in. I went down the other day to look at it. You know, there were little white caps. It was just a normal afternoon, southwest. And then the waves hit the bulkhead. It might be 1.5 feet coming in and they're 2 feet going back out. And it's a miserable place to put a boat.
If I can answer to that, the dock is going to not be for seasonal dockage, but for daily dockage. He's going to have other arrangements made when he's not there to keep the docking safe harbor. It's going to be more of a daily use or a weekly use while the Prager family is there. You know, the boat's not going to be left there unattended.
Where is the boat kept now?
You don't have a boat yet. They're on the morning.
So you don't have a boat?
No. We go on a boat every week. I don't have a boat yet.
Why would you put the tiles on that south side? Railing.
South,
So
hold it off the dock.
the tiles were on the west side of the dock. The prevailing wind is southwest. The tiles were on
The tiles
the
are on the
tiles
other
were
side.
In the application, the letter, the supporting letter from Costello, it says a dock length of 100 feet with the boat's turning radius zone in waters less than 2.5 feet, which would destroy the benthic zone, disturb living organisms, and risk damage to the boat each time the boat navigates to and from the dock.
I have a impact statement that opposes that theory.
Okay, so you're opposing your own?
No, we're going to have to dock the boat in a different manner. You know, we're going to have to back in, which isn't the best way, but I've tried to bring an application here that was conforming to the code. You know, he's going to be handcuffed now to get a smaller boat, which is just the nature of this dock's allowed. So I had the impact statement done that, you know, afterwards, that there's no submerged aquatic vegetation. I brought in a professional, Chuck Hamilton, and that's what that report was about. And I really didn't think it was necessary to give it, but I gave it to you guys so you could look at it real quick to show you the effort that Mr. Breger made to make sure he was not going to be making an environmental impact on that. Like I said, with a larger boat, he wanted to design the dock for something 36 to 40 feet. Now he's going to have to move down in size due to the length of the dock. And what we brought in is a conforming dock. And like I said, it's not going to be left there for full seasonal dockage. There's going to be other accommodations when the Prager family is not there and the weather turns up. I mean, we discussed, you know, a boat slip at a marina, possibly a mooring. But I mean,
So the boat gets put on Friday afternoon and go to bed at night, and over the night we have a storm and the boat's
you
on.
can say that about every dock.
No, I can't, because they're not exposed as this location's exposed. It's a ridiculous location for a dock.
There's 7 other docks out there.
None of
I don't
which are
remember.
used. There's a good reason for that.
They use them for daily usage.
No, they don't. They don't. And there's no boats there. I'm there constantly. You can ask all the people who live around there. There are no boats on those docks. It's, you know, the nonconformity was just one of many issues with this dock. The real, you know, issue is the current, the wind, the wave action. You get compounding wave action with the bulkheads because there is no beach. Waves come in, hit that bulkhead, they come in at a foot and they bite at 2 feet. And it just goes back out and creates so much disturbance in that area. It's unbelievable. I mean, the bottom line is that you're basically pitting the detriment of 15 to 20 different families against the elusive benefit to one family to put in a dock, because they're going to put in a dock they're never going to use. It's just not
How
going
does it hurt another family?
Have you read all of the impact it has on the swimming area next door?
There's a landing next door.
It's a landing next door, but this is his personal property. He doesn't have the right to access the water on his personal
He does.
property.
You can put a mooring out there.
He need that, that's
Not put a,
not.
I suggest he put a mooring out there, buy a boat, put it on the mooring and keep it for a season. If the boat's still in one piece at the end of the year, you can come back to us with a dock application next year.
He's done everything to work with this board.
They can't change the environment. The environment is what it is. It's not a place for a boat.
He doesn't have riparian rights to access a boat from his
He
property?
does have riparian right. That's why he gets a mooring. That's
He doesn't have a beach to launch a boat off of to get
a
the
landing right next door. You can keep a dinghy. That's what everyone else does with a mooring.
Well, the landings are good either.
Yeah, the landing how is he gonna launch off the landing? The landing stairs go right into the water.
No, there's two houses down. It's got a launch.
Down
There's two-
He's saying 5 or 6 or 7 houses down by
Yes.
the fire ramp.
This is, got to find you where the fire ramp is, yeah.
Well, Mr. Prager's here, if he'd like to say a word about what his thoughts are on this. You know, I feel he's worked very hard to make this work for you guys, bringing back a conforming application. And, you know, like I said, the impact statement is basically about it doesn't affect littoral trim to sand. It's an open pile dock. We researched the submerged aquatic vegetation. And like I said, there's a lot in that book from Mr. Hamilton, and that was written by Mr. Hamilton, who's somebody, yeah, so this is I went right to the guy who was quoted about saying about the dock in that area, brought him to the job site and had him do a whole impact statement on it. And he worked for the DEC and ran this region for 35 years. And he felt it was fine. And the DEC gave me a permit for the 125-foot dock, almost instantaneous. They flipped it over so quickly. And like I said, I took Mr. Hamilton to the site. We met the Prager family, and it seems like they're doing all they can do to work with this board. And I don't know what else they could possibly do. Because we had a DEC permit for that 125-foot L splashboard. You know, we didn't put the boat lift on it because we didn't want it to obscure anybody's or obstruct anybody's view. So the Prager family has done everything they can possibly do to work within the code of Shelter Island. So, I mean, I don't know what else you want me to do besides do that. I feel he has the right to the dock. And, you know, like I said, Mr. Prager is here and, you know, he can speak of it if he would like. You know, if not, I would like to take this to a vote because then it'll move to the town board.
For what it's worth, I haven't seen the DEC turn down much of anything in the last 5 years. And when Chuck Hamilton was there, they were much stricter. It was.
Chuck wouldn't have.
John,
Like I said,
John, you have someone in the audience raising her hand.
Yes, please. That was
I
all.
mean,
Mr. Prager go first.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time. My name's Todd Prager. By way of background, my wife Maggie and I were native Californians. We've been in New York for over 20 years combined. Our first time to Shelter Island was in 2016. We immediately fell in love with the island. It's truly a very special place. After spending many summers on Shelter Island, including a 6-month stint during COVID, we bought our home last summer on Oneonta Avenue. I feel so fortunate to be a homeowner on such a special place. We also feel fortunate to spend so much time here with our young daughters, 1 and almost 3. One of our favorite places to be is on the Conic Bay. During our summers here, we're typically on the boat every week. For the proposed dock, besides a landing place for a vessel, we plan to use it to fish, crab, swim, and observe wildlife. During the most recent WMAC committee, I heard the concerns from both the committee and my neighbors. Happy to meet those concerns with my revised dock application that was within town code. Thank you.
Can I speak? I think Mr. Prager has done exactly what we asked for at our last meeting. We asked him to bring us the dock that was in compliance with the code. But I put a lot of thought into this, and you can tell me I'm crazy or you want. there's no building code for a dock. It says you have to have certain size, certain size this, certain size that, railings or anything like that, right? There's no building code. So if I was gonna put a porch on my house, there's a building code that says if it's more than 30 inches, you need a railing, something like that. So we have building codes for housing to protect the owner from hurting himself. Right? If he
But we
doesn't-
have places that you can't build a house because the powers that be thought it was ill-advised to build in certain spots.
Yeah.
On Shelter Island, or anywhere, if you're extending the building thing.
Right, so I'm trying to use this as an analogy. So there are concerns, I have concerns, I think they're shared by other people. The boat is, if a boat is there, it's going to get exposed to some awful conditions. And it might be at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I hope you don't try to do something. What if, I'm afraid that things are going to break loose and get piled up against the bulkhead, and it's just going to be a smash of boat there in the morning. I made a video of a wind event that was on August 4th, 2019. Notice the blue sky. This was at Cockles Harbor Marina, August 4th, middle of the summer. That wind was south-southwest. It would be right on. that would be right on you. And I guess, that would be your loss and not mine. But it happens. And that's blue sky. It was 30, 35, gusting to 40. And, people were holding on to they could barely walk out our dock.
I have no plans to store a boat there, anything even nearly remote.
Well, none of these people did either. It happened just like that. Came up out of nowhere. It doesn't happen in a day, it doesn't happen in a year, but it happens. So I'm fearful of the exposure that you're going to be under. But as far as it pertains to the code, I think it does satisfy the current code. Next.
What are we doing? Are we voting or are we just telling our opinion?
We can start with opinions.
Do we want to see if anyone else wants to speak from the public?
I would think we have a bunch of people here who seem to want to say something.
Okay. Go ahead. Zara.
Bobby Lane, 84 Peconic. And thank you for letting me speak on behalf of the neighborhood. And, and although the resubmitted dock proposal is now within the 100-foot town code, the neighboring property owners are still against it. In summary, the Pragers are asking you to approve and the town to approve something that we all know cannot be used. I think most of you that know me and know my sons and their sailing abilities, I'd be the first one that would want a dock. But, and I have to thank your father for this, when I asked him 30 years ago, when I was trying to get my property bulkheaded, we actually spoke about a dock, but we had only been in the house about a year at that time because there was no bulkheading. And I believe George is your father? Uncle? He said, can't put a dock in. It's too rough here. So we weren't even allowed to bulkhead at that point. So quite honestly, I would prefer to wait to have I'd like a denial on many reasons because I know it can't be used. And I'd love to have a dock myself. I'm not putting it in, and why should I ruin a pristine view? Why should I do that? Most of the people that have boats, as you said, keep their boat at either West Neck, at the yacht club, or some other location. So my feeling is, even though it fits the town code, we have to be cognizant that there are certain places you cannot have a dock. And if you disagree with me on that, then at least at a minimum, I would hope that it could be postponed until the experts who we rely on could make a decision about it, and not just about Peconic Avenue. We're big boaters. We see what happens in different spots along the shoreline. And I have to say, I was really impressed at the last meeting when, Billy, you came up with that outline. It inspired me to read the actual dock code. I didn't read it before. I just knew that it wasn't right to have a boat in this location. So I educated myself on it. I actually counted all the waterfront properties along from the town landing near Wolfsoff's by Brander, all the way down to Oak Tree. And the properties range in size from 3.8 acres, there are 16, there are two larger ones, but from 3.8 acres, which the Pragas are, to 0.75, 16 waterfronts, 12 of which are between that size. They're much smaller in size than other waterfront properties along this stretch. And there are only 4 docks, and there's someone here that happens to have a dock on their property that's against docks. And he said, I can't even use it. And he's sitting here with us, and he did not ask you to put that in. It was done by an investor. And the investor came in and put this in. So now it's a lovely stargazing place. That's what you use it for, because you can't keep a boat there. The other individual that was approved to the north of us on 68 Brander was put in with the, as you had suggested originally, 125 feet L with wave protection. And now they put up lifts, and they tried to get their boat on the lift. And it took, with a man on the dock trying to guide them, 30 minutes to get it on. And then the thing was swaying. It doesn't work with our wind in this area. Forget it, just the wind alone. So, I think that we all have to be smart. We may want something, we can afford it. We can get any study done we want to show whatever we want. But what's practical, what's feasible, and it does impact the neighbors. I'm lucky. I do have a beach on my property, and a decent one compared to many of the other people, because my property is in about 20 feet from my neighbor's bulkhead. That's because we lost most of ours, I guess, in the 1938 storm. So my property is much more protected, but other people's aren't. But that's not to say that the change that we've been having hasn't impacted my beach. There's a big impact on it. Just even from the past year and a half, the shell life is very different on my beach. No more jingle shells. It's shocking. I'm not going to bore you with every single bit of code that gives the town board the right not to approve this, even though it's based, comes in under code. There's many reasons why. And one very important one is that it is at a town landing. It is where a lot of people in our neighborhood congregate. It is where you'd be forced to go in, and there's virtually no beach there at this point. You jump into the water, and then you're going to have to swim out 100 feet to just get past this, where there are so many boats and jet skiers. I mean, it is, yesterday when I was sitting out there, I saw a jet skier almost hit that 125-foot dock. And these are realities of what's happening on Shelter Island. So I thank you for your time. I'm willing to volunteer if you ever need any help, and appreciate all your efforts on our behalf. And I do believe that once the Pragers do spend some time here, not just a few weekends that they've spent, they will really get to appreciate what the water is like. So thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We've been here
And you
far
haven't
more
lived there.
than
I would feel full. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
I like to say something.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I'm Brent Haney, 70 Peconic Avenue. Welcome to Shelter. I know this is stuff we bought in 2016, so, you know, it's a lovely place. I just want to, since Bobby mentioned, we bought in 2016, it was essentially a spec house, 75-foot dock. It was an incentive for us because we thought we'd be able to use them a boater. We've tried everything, and at 2.5 feet with the prevailing wind, it's not safe. I would not allow, there are maybe 10 days out of the year where it's flat and you could drop someone off. But I keep the boat at Island Boatyard. And I've seen Gary went from, hey, let's build docks together. And I saw Gary build 125 foot. And then he put the lift in 2 years later. I've seen him try once. I think Bobby, I saw the same time. And it's up to you to decide whether it's code or not. There are safety issues. I just think that you'll know that there's plenty of places to dock a boat in a safer condition, and just hope that we can all work it out. And it's too good of a place to get upset about. That's all I wanted to say.
Are there any floats on any of the docks along that shore?
I think Gary has one.
No, Gary doesn't.
No.
Lower level.
No floats there.
No floats?
No,
Oh,
this is,
I just
this
have a
is hard.
question, Todd. How do you envision getting your little ones from the fixed dock down onto your boat?
Do it via the ladder. Yeah, wait till they're old enough. Again, we're gonna use the docks for fishing and observing wildlife and crabbing and a landing place for a vessel.
Okay.
I also would like to observe some wildlife and have an unobstructed view, but I know that's not the key point here.
Can you, your name and address, please?
Dan Hockman, 80 Peconic, directly to the east of the Pragers. Would be on the receiving end of any boat that comes loose from that dock. The wind would push it right into my bulkhead, which I'm having replaced this year because we're being undermined. Brand new bulkhead. It's not, my little boat, 20-foot boat, I've had it for 27 years. I've had it anchored off, and I didn't need a ding. I just swam out and hopped on and took off and never left it there. I pick up the kids and that was it. I don't leave it there at all now. I keep it in West Neck. These boats are not 20 feet for little outboard engine anymore. It's like you're like a dinghy out there. They're 27 feet, they're 30 feet, they're 35 feet. I don't know how big this boat's gonna be. The dolphins are 25 feet apart. I don't know if that's by design or because they're putting a monster in there. If that comes loose, even if it gets grounded, if you get grounded and those waves are pushing you up against that bulkhead, there's no way you and your young children are pushing you off shore. You are stuck and you are pounding against my house. So I have a big problem with the integrity of my house, the safety of my house. I have a problem with someone we're gonna back this boat in and stop on a dime while that wind is pushing in, and you're gonna be able to stop that boat and tie it up and lash it on and not come around the pilings, which are 25 feet, right up against that 25-foot buffer zone, and not come into the area where my kids and my future grandchildren will be swimming. I have a lot of problems with this dock. And that's all I have to really say about it. I have a problem that the dolphins, and why are they so far apart? And why is they're 25 feet apart, they're 40 feet length. That's 1,000 square feet of space dedicated to a boat. That's gonna be roped off of all kinds of rigging that it's like a no man's zone. It's like an unusable zone that's half the property. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
This is Karen Lissikers. I'm coming in by Zoom, if I may. Hello? Whoops.
Yes,
No, sorry, I don't know what happened to my photo. It's reversed. But anyway, I can't switch the,
Talking coffee cup.
yeah, anyway, I'm here. So last time you discussed this dock application, I provided some photos of what had happened to my little last remnant of beach on this whole stretch of Peconic Avenue after Gary Scher's dock was put in next door. I'm at 66 Peconic Avenue. Gary is at 68 Peconic Avenue. And the shorter dock, and I'm glad to see there might not be a splash wall, but the shorter dock does not guarantee mitigation of the environmental erosion effects of a dock, which have been documented, I think, by some of the material that Daniel provided to you earlier. And since I live right next door to Gary, I can tell you that I have never seen his boat on the boat lift since he put in the dock. I may see his boat show up for 5 minutes every 3 weeks or a month, once a month. That dock is not used, and it's not used for the reason that others explained. This is not the right environment for trying to dock a boat. I'm looking at the bay right now, and the waves are pounding away and splashing against my bulkhead. This is just not the right place for a dock. So why put in a dock that you will probably rarely, if ever, be able to use? On those rare, very flat days, yes, maybe. But it is an environmental risk. I mean, Gary's dock is also an eyesore, but the big issue is really the environment. And for neighbors who, I'm a little further away, but you know, my ability to use my little stretch of beach has been virtually destroyed. I can't get down from the bottom of my steps anymore because of the erosion that started when Gary's dock was put in. So I really urge you to say no to docks along and more docks along this stretch of beach. It makes no sense environmentally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I say just as?
Yes.
I don't need to be out of line here, but the ex-president of the Silver Beach Association for 12 years, I'm a neighbor of yours, I'm on the non-water side, so I did help make a rescue of your son, about 2 or 3 years ago with sailboat, which he capsized right there. It is a pretty rough area. I applaud you for doing what you did, you know, in terms of trying to get it to meet code. I think you did a great job on that. My major concern is what Karen is talking about. She's lived there for decades, and the environmental impact on her property from the next rains was substantial, and she showed it through vision. My thing big is getting along with your neighbors. You know, the neighborhood, you look like lovely people. Maggie, first, I was moving in on the truck, and my neighbor across the street said, "Jim, could you take those big floodlights and turn them into, they're shining in my kitchen." It's the first, and of course, that was your mother-in-law, so I quickly got a ladder out, and I moved her.
Take it down around.
She then called back and said, "Thank you so very, very much." My point is, we do all try to get along with one another, being new into the neighborhood. And we realize you do have a property right, and it's something that you dream about with your children, fish out there and those kinds of things. I'm just saying environmentally, it's tough. I go back to the suggestion that was made before. Maybe give it a little bit of a year. You know, live there for a year, see if you can get the boat, put in a safe area inside of West Neck. Get the boat that you like. Observe it. You'll be there. You'll be able to make those kinds of judgments. If you feel after a year that it's worth coming back to, submit this application back again. it's something that I just think would be kind of reasonable to do. We didn't get it last summer, last winter, but I've been there 16, this is my 17th year there. The ice flow, the whacking up against the chunks of ice are 2 and 3 feet thick. And in the wintertime, when that ice breaks up, in end of February, when we get that little warm spell and it smashes into those bulkheads, it's substantial. I always look at Margaret and say, thank God we live on this side of the street. I get the full view of what you get, but I don't get the headaches that go along with, and the responsibility of maintaining that bulkhead and everything. So I just ask you that, I'm just not trying to smooth things out. I'm just saying that it's a small neighborhood. We all care about one another. We try to do the right thing for one another. And, just give it a thought. But I do applaud the fact that, you came in here and you did all the right things. And the application is here. So I'm not a voting member, but I've been a liaison to this committee for 8 years. There are 2 new gentlemen on here that replaced 2 other people, but they usually use pretty good judgment. The safety factor, the environmental factor are my greatest concerns. And however this goes, welcome to the neighborhood.
So if I can just respond to that. So first off, thanks for your time. Thanks for your comments. I look forward to seeing you around the neighborhood. Obviously,
yes.
When joining a special place, we want to be considerate of the neighbors. That being said, when we spoke to Chuck Hamilton, who was the head of DC for the views, I actually asked about Karen's concern and his view actually, and then Karen, I'm happy to put you in touch with him, that had to do with the abnormal, excuse me. And thanks for having us over a few weeks ago. It was the abnormally high jetties nearby. I'm just saying this, he was explaining to me simple, because I don't want to come in here and say, if people are saying, hey, you're going to damage the environment, I want to know that I'm not. And so we went with a local expert, and he assured me that we weren't. And I asked specifically about her property. I know that she had mentioned those concerns about the splashboards, remove the splashboards, to ask from the town and the neighbors, and the letter was, come into code. And that's what we did. We're cordial people, we're right down the middle, we're trying to play by the rules here. And this is what we came with, but I really appreciate those comments. I'll make sure if I have any floodlights, I'll turn around.
Regardless of how that's going to go.
We'll be here, they'll be here, come over, catch a coffee, Wi-Fi, whatever you need. I mean, I get the game.
Marcus, so do you want us to continue with this process?
I'd be curious on the opinions.
Well, we can take it to a vote, though, if you want us to proceed.
I don't think we want to take it to a vote, but I think we want to get your opinion. I gave you a lot of literature there at the last minute. I thought it was going to be quick enough for you guys to look through it and get what Mr. Hamilton was trying to say. I would love to hear your comments, but I think I would love to give you time to read that whole environmental impact statement. Because like I said, when I came in here with the conforming dock, Mr. Prager bent over backwards to bring a conforming dock. You eliminated the splashboard, and I think as far as the neighbors go with the splashboard, we eliminated it. We just eliminated the L. And hopefully the boat can navigate without having the L, can navigate in deeper water at a shorter dock. So we tried to address all your concerns. But I would like to hear your comments, but we'll probably adjourn to give you a chance to read the environmental impact statement.
Yeah, I can't hold this back. My last conversation with Chuck Hamilton was decades ago. It was in reference to this shoreline, and he said, there's no way there should be docks here. This is a pristine shoreline. Leave it the way it is. Don't even ask us. So, and the town never had to deal with any dock applications because the DEC just said, no way. So that was my last interaction with him.
Okay. It's a little contradictory because we met him at the house and, looked at other neighboring structures.
Yeah.
Went on Google Earth, counted all the docks.
Yeah.
As far as damage to those docks due to ice, I maintain a lot of docks. The maintenance work we've done on the docks over the past 30 years has been very minimal.
Yeah.
And, we've built a couple new ones out there, and this is an open pile pier. It's a minimalistic structure.
Right.
And like I said,
you did a great job complying with the code. I give you all kinds of credit for that. So right now, you're not asking for a vote.
I'm asking, be curious for feedback, but not asking for a vote.
Well, you got my feedback. It's, in my opinion, I like I give you all kinds of credit for complying with the code. You did what we asked you to do. I just think it's a treacherous location.
Again, welcome to Shelter Island. Shelter Island can be cantankerous sometimes, but, we're all, I think, trying to do the same thing where, we may not express it in the same way, but we're all looking out to make Shelter Island as good as we can. We try to use our experience to guide people. I know, like having children, sometimes they just have to find out for themselves. I get it. I traditionally have been a big property rights person, and they should be able to do what they want to do. But I'm also hearing in this case, which is very unusual, there's a lot of neighbor opposition to this project. I applaud you for reconfiguring it and making it into the 100-foot thing that it is. But, we've been sort of put into a position where we know that this code has to be looked at again. There are glaring things in it that just don't make sense. You've heard us going back and forth already in just a short time you've been sitting in this room. It's not an easy task, and there's so many different things going on Shelter Island that no one size fits all. And, where you're located is where I grew up. I spent hours on what was a beach in front of your house. And there's no beach anymore. We all have our theories about that. But I also have seen it in its placid way, which is infrequent, and its tumultuous way, which is generally every day, after maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My family had boats. We would bring it around maybe to have lunch on the beach there, but at the end of the day, went back to Westneck. My mother-in-law, who grew up, she's 93, she grew up down the road from you. Her father there was a giant dock when he bought his house. And, that dock probably supported having a boat there most of the time, tied off in an area that was surrounded by kind of a L with a return on it and splash boards. But there was no big boat ever really kept on that dock. My mother-in-law, in her infinite wisdom, she inherited the property next door when that older house was sold, and she built a 100-foot dock. And that dock, the kids will go occasionally out. My grandkids, they go out occasionally on it and fish. The snapper fishing isn't really great there, but they do go out there. But no matter if I was desperate to put my boat somewhere and I don't have any waterfront property, that dock is available and I could put it there, I would never do it. I don't even want to go and visit my mother-in-law by boat because it's such a nasty place. Trying to get onto a boat when there's a chop at all there is not recommended. You're going to have problems. And then you go back to what you're putting the dock on is town bottom, which belongs to everybody. So this is where I have to, have a rethinking within myself about how we dispense this asset and where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense to allow people to build on it. So I think in this instance, and it's contradictory to the way I voted sometimes in the past, I would have to be in the negative on whether this project should proceed. And it's not, you guys did everything right. It's more us than you in this case, perhaps. But, I think something has to be reevaluated in how docks and structures are approved in areas like this. Just like what the town's done with wetland buffers. It used to be you could build a house right where your house is, but you can't do that anymore easily. I wish you a great time on Shelter Island. I could offer you to come out and walk on my mother-in-law's dock when it's blowing, and she wouldn't care. She probably wouldn't even know. Bring your kids there to fish. But I would save myself the grief of having a dock.
Thank you, James.
I'm the newest member of this committee, so I'll start with that. Also, welcome to the community. I'm also out in Silver Beach, a bit further down towards Crab Creek, actually. And I've been there since, going out there since I was 0. And I was one of those kids that James was messing around with back when he was a bit older, and I was a little punk on the beach. So all that to say that it's not a good spot for a dock. It's not a good spot to bring a boat in. I've done that a couple of times. One time, not so far in the distance. I had one, I was taking some kids out, tubing around. It was not a bad day. I went in and I dropped in one person. One of the kids was not a swimmer. I attempted to drop them off on one of the docks further down by Crab Creek. It was relatively calm. I'm a decent boatsman. It was not a great experience. It's just, why not? I would not recommend trying to do that with your 1-year-old and 3-year-old. It's not, I think that might not go well. So I think, sort of echoing what James and John have said, I don't think that good area is good for a dock. There are other places that are, and obviously you don't want to kick you out of the neighborhood or have you move, but there are other places that are good for docks or for bringing a boat in. And I think that it's just that combination of that location.
Thanks, Matt. Mark?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I agree with my colleagues. You're caught in a little tough situation on Shelter Island. Around here, if everybody says yes to this, they're basically saying yes to another 10 docks. Up there, whoever buys a new one, who wants one, is going to say this is just fine. It may have been subtle to most of the people in the room, but there was one application that came up today where this committee was pretty much against it universally. However, we agreed to it. And the person built the dock, and it was a splendid dock. And at 7 o'clock one morning, he called me over to take a look at his boat, which is flipped upside down at the dock. And then he came back in front of here and said, the dock, which we advised strongly against, but approved, that he tied his boat on wasn't sufficient, and now he wanted to increase his dock to make it safer for his family. And had he taken our advice, it may not have happened that way. So I personally don't think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome to the island. Unfortunate that you're in this kind of a mess. I'm one of the other newest members of this committee. I've always had a problem with riparian rights. That's no secret to anybody, and it shouldn't be. I've always had a problem with that. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that this location is not a good spot for a dock. It's that whole side of the island, it just isn't good for a dock. There's other places where they should be docks and it could be docks, but unfortunately that's not the case everywhere. I, as a matter of fact, moved my 34-foot marine trailer off of its anchor in the transient anchorage and moved to my mooring because I didn't know what the next 3 hours would bring when it came to weather. No problem. I believe that the anchor would have been fine, but cautionary, knock on wood, let's just go to the mooring and be done with it. And now I know I'm safe. It's because I know I'm in a safe location. It's not a good spot. That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. I got to give you credit for coming back with something that conformed with code. The original problem wasn't with the conforming of the code, but more so. It's really what I have to say here. I'm sorry that this is what you come to when you come to the island. But that location is just not appropriate for a dock.
Thank you, Tom.
I think I pretty much stated all my reasons for being against the dock at the outset. As far as the Hamilton report, I think this is what happens when a public official goes private and gets paid to produce a document. So I will read it, but I think you can get what you pay for. And also, I think the town, we're talking a lot about conforming with the code. There is a provision of this code, 5315, that gives the town board the authority to modify or waive any provision of the code that is not in the best interest of the public for their health, safety, and general welfare. So I would just hope that the town board would consider 5315 when this does come up. I feel, I can appreciate your wanting a dock. Unfortunately, sometimes people don't do enough due diligence before they buy a piece of property, or the real estate brokers pitch them on the right day. But the environment's not going to change in that area. It's probably going to get worse. So I, again, would say that I'm definitely against the dock in that location.
Could you do me a favor and read that section of the code again?
I was paraphrasing, but I can read the whole thing if you want.
It's something we don't pay a lot of attention to, but I think it's a pretty significant statement.
So it's 5315 waivers. Town board shall have the authority to modify or waive, subject to any appropriate conditions, any provisions of this chapter, as in its judgment is not requisite to the interests of the public health, safety, and general welfare, except where such waiver would be contrary to other ordinances or state law. Request for such waiver may be initiated by written request to the town board, accompanied by documentation that fully explains and supports the reasons for the request. Additional information may be sought from the applicant at the discretion of the town board.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. See you soon.
Maybe one of the other dock owners wants to offer up their dock. Does that mean that? I heard that's.
She wouldn't.
Watt's mooring application is incomplete because she has a second mooring, what was a repairing mooring, should now be private. So that you have to table that until it comes back with the boat information. Let's go right to the Big Ram LLC dock application. Where do we?
I will recuse myself
Okay.
from this.
Okay.
And I would think that anybody else with any interest in this would do the same.
Are we going to this one?
Big Ren.
I beg your pardon?
Nice work.
I wasn't sure what to think about that.
Go on the Big Ram.
Because,
The what?
I don't agree, but.
Go on the Big Ram LLC.
All right, what happened with the mooring?
Watt's got tabled because we don't have the information on the boat.
Thank you.
It's a private mooring, not a repairing mooring.
Thanks.
Welcome. So where we left off, just as a recap, was that the application was complete as far as what we're used to seeing. Only qualify it in that light. Just, we looking for staking, right? I think last time.
Staking.
Okay, unfortunately, I didn't go into specifics, but they're looking for 4 stakes. 2 at the end.
Did you get this letter?
Yes, just got it actually, all day for it.
2 stakes demarking the end of the dock?
Yeah. That's what it says.
Well, there was one marking the end, there was one marking the beginning, and one by the stairs to show where the crossover was gonna go.
On the property line?
No, it showed the start, turn, and the very end.
Okay, well, I guess, I'll take some credit for this or blame for it. The code specifically says how to stake it. I didn't specifically say you need to follow that to the letter. But in this particular situation, this is just a pain in the neck, right? Stuff. But the other thing that was more of a sticking point was the ramp. I don't know what you want to call it, the ramp that went from the dock to the stairs, existing stairs.
Did everyone read Pam Demar's letter that she wrote? It just included this afternoon at about 3 o'clock, so some people may have missed it.
I didn't.
The ramp is actually at the very beginning of that letter.
Is it something different than we talked about?
It's the 26-foot ramp.
Yeah.
And Tom brought up the astute point last time that it looked like it needed a setback.
New construction within the setback.
Well, that came up at a town board. If I'm not,
Highlight is here too.
right, if I'm not saying this right, correct, right, this came up in a town board work session. Town attorney Kylie said that particular kind of a structure, or whatever you want to call it, does not have to meet setback requirements. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, so let's just walk through this step by step. This property is located in the AA zoning district, and pursuant to 133.7.5, it says setback shall not be less than the following. And then it setbacks, but what's pertinent here are the side and rear setbacks. And it has 3 different setback requirements. The first is for principal buildings and accessory apartments. Thus, that doesn't apply. The second is accessory buildings containing sleeping quarters, accessory buildings of more than 1 story, tennis courts, or similar structures 30 feet. So that one doesn't apply. And then the third is other accessory buildings, which is 15 feet, but that doesn't apply. It's not a building. So what is it? So we look at the definition of a structure. It says anything constructed or erected on or under the ground or upon another structure or building, excluding walkways. So in my mind, I don't see what, if any, setback it should hold vis-a-vis the zoning code. That's all I'm chiming in on right now. So
That's pretty specific.
It's accepted walkway, so it's walkway.
So, but now if you look at, let's see here. Obviously, everybody talks about, hold on. All right, design and construction of private and commercial docks. So now we're out of zoning, now we're back in the dock code. The location of a dock shall cross a water frontage of a lot with the same setback requirements from the extremes of that water frontage as apply for the principal dwelling on that lot, but in no case less than 25 feet. So in essence, for the dock, you want a setback of the principal dwelling. So if we jump back into zoning, that would be 30 feet. And as you see, they're holding 31 feet for the dock. Now, some may say, well, isn't this part of the dock? Shouldn't it hold 30 feet? Again, in the dock code, not the zoning. But if you look at the definition of a dock, it says any structure, whether floating and or fixed, designed to accommodate a boat. Such structure being attached at least on one end to the upland and elsewhere to the underwater lands below the mean high water mark. I argue that the dock does not include the walkway. So, but even if someone disagrees with me and the town board disagrees with me, they would have the opportunity to request a waiver from that provision. So I'm just throwing out there this for your edification and to take it into account.
Thank you.
Okay. What if you don't mind, if the existing stairs weren't there and the applicant wanted to build those stairs where they currently are, that be allowed? I'm just this apples and oranges a little bit.
I'm sorry, so you're asking if they just wanted to build that set of stairs?
Yeah.
Would it require, again, I don't see it in our zoning code where it would require a setback.
Yeah.
That's stairs coming down the bluff leading to the walkway? That's what you're talking about?
Existing stairs.
I know, but you're talking about not the walkway, but the stairs coming down the bluff.
Correct.
Partially. They don't come all the way down.
Now, again, if the stairs may have to hold the front setback because it says 50 feet for all structures. Now, a stair could be arguably a structure, not a walkway because it's specifically exempted in the definitional section. So if it was located in the front, yeah, you may have to hold 50 feet. But if you're looking at the side and rear setbacks, our code is silent as to that type of structure and what kind of setback it would have to hold.
Okay, I think that's pretty clear. Any questions from you guys?
You're a word, he said.
I said a particular angled
Ramp,
not
dock.
Not a dock. It's a walkway, and the code doesn't force that to honor the setback. A walkway can be anywhere on the property.
According to the zoning code, yes. Like a walkway between anywhere in the front yard. Because again, it says front yard setbacks 50 feet for all structures, and as I discussed, the walkway is specifically exempted as being a structure.
That couldn't put an air conditioner there.
Say it again.
You couldn't put an air conditioner there, but you could put a walkway there.
A walkway to me is a path.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
This is something which is constructed.
Okay, that's fine, but then you say if we, again, argue, I agree with you. Let's say hypothetically, I agree with you on that. What side yard setback would you employ?
I have a question. Is this a residential or commercial dock?
Residential.
Residential.
I'll answer that.
It's residential?
Yes.
And why is the insurance policy
That's
commercial?
Let's stick with the.
I don't want to get off topic because this was something that I was confused about, and I want to understand this more for future
The box is
reference.
checked.
New policy has changed.
But basically, the walkway was constructed, but it's still considered a walkway, not part of the dock. That's what the law says, correct?
Well, that's.
It doesn't require the side yard setback.
Yeah, the extra thing that has to be put in place to get from the dock to the existing stairwell.
It's considered a walkway.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the best interpretation of it. And that interpretation does not include the setback requirements.
Yep. Okay.
so is it a catwalk?
How would you construct that? What was,
Just 4x4s, 4x6 stringers, and just make a small walkway across the stairs. And the reason for keeping the stairs where they are is because of significant erosion there. And the fear is we don't want another set of stairs up the bluff, cause more.
I can't talk slower. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The reason for repurposing the old stairs is there's erosion by the old stairs. And we didn't want to put a new set of stairs up the bluff and potentially cause more erosion when she kind of has the sample project right there, that the stairs were an issue at some point, you know.
But the Saipan dock that you put in, going up the bluff is stairs going up a bluff that's 5 times as far.
I didn't do the stairs, see it down.
Oh, so you didn't do the stairs.
Just built the dock.
Okay, well, the point is it's doable, even though you didn't do it.
That was actually also a replacement.
That was one?
That was a replacement. That's where the existing stairs were, and that was a replacement. So it's a very similar situation then. They put the new stairs right back where they had been originally, in St. Anne's property.
I don't want to beat this dead horse, but on the walkway,
I got a copy.
how do we differentiate then again between a walkway and dock? Like, where does the dock? So it's like, is there approach to the dock? So the dock stops at some, I mean, how do we determine where it stops and why would not that portion that's constructed on land not be?
That's something I've been, always thought was a gray area as to where the dock and the catwalk began and stopped. That was kind of.
Stephen, can you read, because if you read the definition of a dock,
But what
that's
is,
necessary for the functioning of a dock.
what is the interior portion of the dock? Because I mean, a dock is going to, I mean, it stops at some point, but where? Is it just where is the dock end where it goes over sand or mean high water? Or is like the approach to, I mean, that's, I guess my question is, what is the end of the dock? Where's the end of the dock?
I don't think
In the code, they include walkways when measuring the linear distance of a dock.
Right.
So the walkway would be considered part of the dock.
But our measurement starts at mean high water. There wouldn't be a walkway.
So that wouldn't even
That
be
measure-
considered in the dock application because it wouldn't be
Wouldn't extend
part of the dock because it's before.
Correct.
before mean high water. So basically, so according to this then, a dock for our purposes then is from mean high water out, and anything the interior of that is walkway? Is that?
I believe that's the measurement. But your question is about, if it, like the one we put in Daring Harbor, what was the brand new one?
Yeah,
Slot.
Caroline and Oscar, right.
Slot dock.
Slaughterback. It's got a 100-foot dock. I don't know.
Ended up going with 100 foot.
It's a new dock, but the dock keeps going, comes ashore and it goes over the wetlands and then comes down again. Now, where is the beginning and end of that? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's not spelled out. As far as measurement goes, yes, mean high water. And, you got people using the term catwalk. I could argue just on convention, the dock could end at mean high water and beyond that is catwalk.
Right, yeah.
But we've never had a situation that I can remember where the dock came ashore perpendicular to the shore, almost perpendicular, and then went off at a 45-degree angle, and then we counted that as dock.
What if the next owner of the Bennett house wants it to go to their house instead of to the Ramsett Inn?
Angle over?
Talking about here.
We're talking about for a number of years, we always said that when we discussed things, it was not just for the original, not for the applicant, but it was for the property going forward. I think people could bear that's discussion that we've had. And that's how we interpreted it.
Correct, for the most part. If there was extenuating circumstances and the owner had been there for 40 years and he was in a wheelchair and needed wheelchair access to the dock, we probably made an exception for that.
That's a mega hardship. Yeah, I got you. I'd want to be able to roll down too.
All right, a bad hip, I don't know. We made allowances. Anyhow, that was a stumbling block that Tom brought up, and I thought it was going to be a big one. It turns out it's not.
No, I mean, I may not agree with it being a walkway, but that's what the code says it is, so that's what it is.
No, but again, even if we all agreed that it is all part of the dock, it wouldn't have a zoning setback in the side yard.
Yep.
Well, no, if it was part of the dock, then would it have to be part of the dock setback,
Right.
which is 25 feet?
Again, I'm speaking about the zoning code.
Right, okay.
Zoning code would not have a setback requirement. Like it could, as we discussed, yes, in the dock code, then they would have to hold the setback and then seek relief through a waiver to the town board if that's what they wanted to do.
We care that it's being called a commercial dock in this document? Or is that irrelevant?
Why? I don't care.
I
It's an
don't,
insurance certificate, right?
what?
It's an insurance certificate?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, well, the commercial dock.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pam Demarest raises some interesting points in her paragraph number 2, and it just makes me wonder about the intention of the owner, the fact that continues to misuse or use the causeway dock, which just seems wrong. It just indicates to me that this person is going to go above and beyond the parameters we're trying to establish here, which is that this is a private dock for her house versus what's going on at the Ram's Head Inn. But she keeps breaching that line between those two properties. It's disturbing. It's a hornet's nest, I think. So I don't know how the town board intends to keep this woman in line and make sure she utilizes each dock the way it's supposed to be. One is a residential dock and one is a commercial dock. So it just, it's just, I don't know how you deal with that.
If I could just chime in on that real quick.
Please.
Yeah, we can make a condition of the approval that it exclusively be used for private use, and we'll have to define that better than the amorphous private use. And then we recently hired a code enforcement officer that is very, very skilled, and I'm confident that it can be enforced.
Good.
So normally we would, at this point, take a vote. The only thing that's outstanding,
I'm sorry, excuse me, John, may we speak on this?
I don't know, but is this something new, Pam?
No, this isn't something new. You just said that part of the dock is mean high water. What I gave you today was the difference in mean high water that's been displayed in the documents on the surveys that were submitted that Mr. Baraluski did versus the site plan that Mr. Costello wrote, and it's a difference of about 10 feet of where mean high water is. This catwalk, and I will not call it a walkway because it's not one, is within mean high water, according to the survey that the applicant submitted. I don't know where mean high water from the April 5th or whatever date it is there of 2022 came from, but that doesn't show on any survey. The last survey was done on November 5th of 2022. So I want to know how the mean high water moved 10 feet to accommodate this structure, because that's basically what I'm hearing here. And it sounds like, oh, maybe there's not going to be a wetlands application required for it too, because we're going to call it this and not call it that. If you're basing a decision on mean high water, that needs to be rectified and explained as to how Mr. Costello has moved that mean high water mark 10 or more feet back. Because I'm going to tell you that the boulders that are on the property there, beyond going landward, is 10 feet to where the rack line is every day. 10 feet behind those boulders landward. That's where the mean high water mark is here. And I know it because my family's had the property here now for 87 years. And I've seen it change over time.
So this needs to be determined by you before you make any decision on this dock. It is imperative. And I don't think that's anything new.
You're challenging the survey?
I'm challenging the site plan, not the survey.
She's confirming the survey.
I think she's pointing out a discrepancy between the site plan and the survey.
Why don't you ask Mr. Costello to answer that?
I gave you a sheet that shows all 3 marks on 1 page. It's just 3 little pictures. You can see where the surveys go together and where his moves inland. It's very easy to take a look at.
Yeah, if I had my glasses.
Well, then I marked it in purple on the lines that are 100 feet from mean high water according to the survey, and where this dock lands at 100 feet from where Mr. Costello says mean high water is. From
So
April.
I don't dictate where mean high water is, the surveyor does. We have a hydrographic surveyor.
Then where did the mean high water of April of 2022 come from on your site plan, Mr. Costello? Because it doesn't match.
Listen, first of all, I don't have to answer to you. I'm here to deal with this Waterways Committee.
John,
Direct your questions to them.
Yes, John, I believe you should take control of this meeting. And, you know, she raised some comments and you should look into that if you feel it's necessary.
If the mean high water mark is as high as she's indicating, then it takes in that 26-foot.
The entire catwalk. And the platform, the landing of the bottom of the stairs, that's going to be 5 feet higher. So the whole staircase is probably going to get redone anyway. That was in the plans and then wasn't. And then the platform at the top of the bluff that's going to be redone, I think, well, that's also not conforming because it's only 5 feet from the property line. The fence that goes along the Ram's Head Inn connects to that post for that gate that takes you down those stairs. And that's non-conforming. The stairs are non-conforming. So we're attaching a catwalk that I believe is a part of the dock and in mean high water to a new dock that's longer than it needs to be to get to 2.5 foot depth. If you change that mean high water mark to the survey, then that dock doesn't go into the harbor as long as it extend that far into the harbor. It almost takes the float off of the end of it in length. That's the difference we're looking at here. And it's a serious difference as far as I'm concerned.
So I don't have the original survey.
That only has to hit 2.5 feet of water. It doesn't have to be 100 feet long. And if you follow the mean high water mark and go out 100 feet, you hit 2.5 feet of water. The one that's on the survey, I mean.
Got the original survey there?
Original survey of the property, the hydrographic survey.
This was done by your specialists, right?
Oh, yeah.
The mean high water. I was referring to a survey done by a survey company that was in November of 2021. Difference. 2 different people marking 2 different mean high waters. That's, I want to be sure I understand. Right? I'm looking at it here.
So I have both right here.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
And I have gone with it, taken another committee member with me and made our own determination of the high water. Confirmed what was staked. I don't know if that carries, how much weight that carries.
No, I'm sorry. The water has been behind those boulders for about 35 years now when the high tide comes in. It's not in front of those boulders. It does not stop there. Means the high water comes all the way to the stairs that the Ram's Head Inn has as access to the beach. It comes in that high. You follow the rack line around from where my stone wall ends all the way to the town landing. And that's mean high water. So, I don't know where this line is.
Because this goes a little bit to the conversation we had where I was sort of associating about mean high water versus high water mark. So the rack line would be high water mark. But mean high water has some, it does have some, we need to figure out.
True enough, Matt, true
What-
enough.
what
I'm
the-
just trying to make a point. I'm
Yeah,
just-
yeah, no, it's, no,
At high
I'm
tide-
not disputing.
Every
At high-
day,
let me
mean
just
high
say this.
water changes
Let
by
me just
6
say,
inches.
Mayor, I'm just going to say this. At high tide, I have never in my life at this house been able to walk from my house to get to the town landing without getting my feet wet. It has always been almost waist high at high tide my entire life. So this was surveyed, the survey shows it in the correct position, and the site plan does not, and that's false
High
statement
water.
application. And I'm sorry. it
Well,
is.
it's nice, let's take the end, where the dock ends, and then where it ends of the stairs. That wasn't requested of me, it was staking the dock that was requested of me.
I'm not saying you were deficient, I'm just, if I went over there, what am I gonna be seeing?
And I can't do that. I would have to have the surveyor go.
And when the survey.
I could delineate off of this, I could take measurements, of course, I could do it, but I mean,
I'm sorry, like, as far as the stakes, 53-9D, it's pretty clear that you need the 4, a minimum of 4.
And the property line as well, I think.
Yes, and additional stakes shall be placed at the property boundaries nearest the dock. It further says the location of these stakes shall correspond exactly to the configuration of the proposed dock on the scale drawing accompanying the permit application.
The stakes don't have to mark high water mark? No, just,
No.
So, the high water marks on the original plan are from your surveyor? Is that who puts them in there?
Yeah.
That's from your surveyor?
well, they hire, the customer hires a hydrographic surveyor.
The customer hires a hydro
Yes.
surveyor, okay.
And
And
they
then
go in,
those readings are incorporated into your blueprints?
It's like, yes. So the customer hires the hydrographic surveyor, they give us their information, and then that's how we do everything.
You use the information that they gave you, you don't have that information yourself, comes from somewhere else.
Yes.
and the hydrographic surveyor, they come in and they're, the numbers that they're coming up with for mean high water are things that they're observing on site, or are they taking a log, do they have like a database? Because mean to me says it's averaged over some period of time, because it's a mean is an average. And so what is that period of time? Because I looked into this a bit, and NOAA says, they've got a mean high water that they currently define as the average over the 19-year period between 1982 or something like that and 2001.
Yeah, that's what the surveyor does.
And so that they're just figuring out where that line is now, or they're, because I'm trying to understand what the numbers are that come up on the survey. Is that?
All the numbers on the survey are mean low water. And it's based on an average. And it's based on the time of day he's there.
Right.
He goes with the GPS.
Yeah.
And then he calculates in relation to the time of the day, and then he uses that information against like the average.
Okay, all right.
This is Bob Fox of Sea Level Mapping. He's very respected.
I'm just trying to understand how that happened, the
Yeah,
process.
just the procedure, where it comes from, okay.
End consultants had done a lot of work on this.
So it's.
on determining mean high water.
Yeah, remember he ran through Slaughterback.
Well, Bob Fox does his hydrographic surveys, usually.
Yeah,
Rob
but-
and Bob work together a lot.
But he went to another source that he identified for us. It's in my notes someplace. And he reviewed it all, see if the mean high water line had changed. Because we were taking into account pier line and everything else over there. And he came back and said it hadn't changed that much over the last. But the point being that there's another source out there for determining mean high water. Where they're constantly measuring it, that we should be aware of.
On any particular day during the course of the month, it could be
Oh, yeah.
two different high tides. There could be no difference, it could be the same. There could be as much as 6 to 8 inches difference in that high tide. So I don't know, I don't know how this is done.
But I think that's the point, is like it is, like there are all those variations. and then you're taking over a chunk of time, and each one of those should be measured. It's like, this is high tide on, today, and then yesterday it was here. And all those different tides over that period of time, or then average. So you might have a situation where, hey, the mean high water is actually below where you're going in. You're saying, it's actually, I see water above mean high water. Yeah, because it's an average, and you might see it below on any given day. But I think the point is that you're taking that surveyor should be taking that, they're taking their site-specific measurement of where it is at a certain time of day, and then going back to that larger database and saying, here's where I went and observed it at 10:02, and here's where it comes in, and this is what then, because of that information, moon and whatever, here's where mean high water is for this location. I mean, that's what I think they could and should be doing, but
And
for
here,
us.
and here's where it is for today.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen that
it's moved, yeah.
a different surveyor could find a different line on a different day.
But 10 feet, that's a big difference. If the dam is claiming that there's a 10-foot difference there.
10 feet is a big difference.
There's a
I guess it's a big
10
difference,
foot, let me
yeah.
try to explain it again. From the certified survey, there is a 10-foot difference from his measurements on his site plan, right? The site plan has moved the mean high water and marked it as a date of April of 22. The mean high water did not move 10 feet from a surveyor doing a survey in November to April by a matter of 10 feet. Of course, there's fluctuations with the tide. The point is that there's no certified survey starting using the site plan submitted that shows it where they start their measurements for the length of the dock out seaward, either 100 feet or to 2.5 foot of depth. And if you take the survey that was submitted with the application and measure from there out to 2.5 feet of depth, it's less than 100 feet in length. That's what I'm saying here. So this dock doesn't have to be 100 feet in length because it only has to be 2.5 feet of depth. And it gets to that point before it gets to the 100 foot in length. And that's why it's imperative that you use the mean high water that was submitted with the survey and certified by a surveyor. That's where the starting point is for the plan of this structure.
Has this committee asked for certified surveys before? Just wondering, or do we usually accept the work of hydro?
It's usually part of the
I always look to see who did it. Yeah, and if I see Fox, then he's licensed. I accept that.
So we don't have to make the assumption that the survey was correct and this is incorrect, or this is, you know what I'm saying? Usually just assume that this is correct within some acceptable margin of error.
We accept a certified survey from a certified surveyor.
Just wanted to make sure I was clear on the history.
Let's raise a different question, but was the issue of the two docks, sort of like the easement and whatever, sort of resolved, or no? I don't recall whether that was gotten to.
That's contingent. Been extinguishes, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll be dealing with that once you give us a recommendation on the dock, yay or nay, the town board.
So you want a separate, so we should assume that that's handled.
That's gonna be something we'll deal with.
Yeah.
Separate, okay.
And I would like to request a vote tonight.
Okay, will other people be permitted to speak? There are a couple other hands raised.
I don't know. Got time? Getting back, as far as the vote goes, we still gonna try and cross all the Ts and dot all the Is. We still don't have the stakes the code asks for. So it's hard for us to vote without that.
I don't see the relevance of putting one more stake out there to show the end of the dock. This doesn't seem relevant moving forward with this application. It is a stake marking the end of the dock. I don't know why I gotta put two stakes to mark the end of the dock. It doesn't seem, I mean, it's counterproductive at this point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna request a vote, but that's all I can do is make a request.
Okay.
Chairman Needham, could other people who raise hands be allowed to speak? Please?
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Okay, so I just want to comment on this walkway thing and the novel interpretation that this elevated ramp is a walkway just because Costello called it a walkway. It's not a walkway, it's an elevated ramp. It's a structure, it's not a footpath. Okay, so this is clearly not permitted because it violates setbacks in AA regulated zone, okay? And so I disagree with, maybe a walkway footpath on the ground would be allowed, okay, by zoning code, but this is a structure. It's an elevated ramp, which is highly visible. And so it's clearly not permitted by the zoning code. So, my interpretation is different. Second, let's talk about the intent. Why it's necessary to have this ramp, elevated ramp that goes 45 degrees from where the dog lands, okay? I mean, it's clear to see that the intent is to people leaving the dog to bypass the property. Basically, they won't even be visible from the house, which is on a higher plane, and just walk up those few stairs and go straight to Ramsad Inn. This is basically an intent is to have a second dog for Ramsad Inn, okay? And I cannot believe that this committee would not take this into account and vote it down, okay? And if the intent was for this dog to be for the house, then move the dog to the middle and scale it up so you cannot go to Ramsad Inn without crossing through the Bennett House property, okay? So that's what I would like to say. And I think the intent, and then another point, the attorney Kylie says that we have an enforcement officer and we're pretty sure that this is going to enforce. Very few things on Shelter Island are enforced, okay? The enforcement record of this town is abysmal for many, many things. And the only way you can enforce it is to post the cap there, every day to see that the people are walking to Bennett House and not to Ramsad Inn from there, which would be a commercial use prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. I'd like to comment on I understand what you're saying about the ability for easy access to the Ram Head Inn, but I don't think we can rule or vote on a speculation that that's going to happen. We don't know for certain that that's going to happen, right?
It's not a speculation, it's a certainty.
You can't guarantee that, Jan. I'm sorry. Nobody here can guarantee that one way or the other.
So then you're going to turn the blind eye for the obvious intent of what this dock is for.
Kim Noland.
Hi, I just would like to comment on walkway. I don't think the code ever thought of a walkway as an elevated structure made of non-natural materials. Everything that we try to do on this island is to protect the environment. And I don't think that defining a walkway as additional structures protects the environment. I think we all know what a natural walkway or path looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Tim Bonstrom. Oh, hands come down. I don't know. Can we vote on this? It sounds like there's a question about where the mean high water mark is, and that would determine the length of the dock, how far out it goes, right?
That's my newest concern, yes.
It seems that it would then bring this walkway to become part of the dock.
It changes quite a bit. If that high water mark is not where it actually is, then that does change.
Oh, who wants to go there tomorrow? What's the tide?
I can go.
When's high tide tomorrow?
I guess one other thing on this walkway, if I'm understanding it correctly, part of it is over what's marked on the site plan as being mean high water as well. So it's sort of, I mean, if I'm reading this correctly, that it goes underneath as it turns off with the angle going off to the one side, still above the part of the dock, not the whole dock though. It goes down the middle of the angled part.
Side tide about 4:30.
AM or PM?
Folks. Well, here's a prime example I'm talking about. At 4:30 AM, it's 2.5 feet elevation, and at 4:30 PM, it's 3 feet elevation, three point something. So there's a half a foot of difference. So if we expected at 4:30 PM, we're looking at a mean high tide, if you want to call it that, because there is such a thing as a mean high tide.
The tide's very high in the harbor today, by the way.
Yes, we have a moon. I believe we're in a moon cycle.
Yeah, there was, my dock was.
The impact of the full moon's been going on for a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody want to look at this tomorrow?
I'll be more than happy to look at it tomorrow.
But can I just chime in?
Want to come with us?
Yeah. Bring your waiters.
Wow.
Please.
It's unfortunately, I keep harping back to this, the flagging. It's crystal clear. It says, in addition to the above, it shall be a prerequisite for a complete application. I know Mr. Costello's thinking it's nonsensical, and it might be, but that's the letter of the law. And, for you to make, I think you should avail yourself of some time to also resolve the discrepancy between the survey and the site plan, and then also, investigate the mean high water. Because otherwise, if you do make a recommendation, whether up or down, it's still going to go in front of the town board, and the town board's going to need that information as well before we can proceed. So you might as well resolve these issues here before it gets to the town board.
Right here, right now, don't you?
No, we need to get his,
No.
in other words, we can't vote.
Right. What are the open issues now? Where is high tide?
Where high tide is, yeah, and I think that sets precedent for the other issues. Distance of the dock to 2.5 feet versus 100 foot. And it would also kind of clarify the question of whether that ramp is a ramp, a walkway, or a part of the dock. Right. If the high water mark falls underneath that ramp, then it's dock.
So, again, I want clarity.
Again-
Trying to make the determination of where mean high water is, and we're not gonna listen to this expert, but, I mean,
Well,
that's.
we've got information from someone saying that mark is wrong, so I believe it would be prudent for us to go there and look to see.
Notable, at least, I mean.
We'd notice if it's a 10-foot difference, we'd notice that, okay, yeah, there's 10 feet, or no, there's 6 inches, I think that.
James and I did it with Slaughterback. James and I did it with Cockles Harbor. He never built the dock though. Into the G, Gross Park.
Gross Park.
Yeah, it was set out. So that was marked.
No, I built Gross Park stuff.
You did?
Yeah, so.
Oh, it must be small.
It's beautiful.
Anyhow, so we've worked together in the past, at least on 2 occasions.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Christina, do we have a Barilski survey that Pam's referencing that has a different mean high water than the site plan?
Yeah, who's now?
Oh,
I don't know. Okay.
Like there was a survey submitted with the application.
All right, so again, it would be my counsel that.
Can I see this? Give it back to you, I promise.
I don't know if I want that.
Do we know what?
See, it's a great discrepancy is, it's about 10 feet. This one shows it being like right here at the steps. This one shows it being right at the steps. I mean, you're talking like inches.
Confidence of the different surveys is,
We're just coming up.
against reference. You know where they've come from?
No, I don't think you should. It's a site plan versus a survey.
This is Fox, and this is Fox too?
No.
The survey is an official document.
This is what Pam wrote in?
No, but I'm saying, where did this come from?
Survey and application.
I have it. But that is actually, I believe that's Pam's own work.
Right, but then, but no, this one is a photocopy or.
Yeah.
This-
So I'm not sure which one it is. There was a survey and then there was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you should be happy to tell you if you called her.
Okay,
She's
so if
still
you
on?
want to, I hear you
Pam on?
asking a question. May I just explain it? I use the surveys and I use the site plan and I use the hydrographic map that was submitted with the site plan, with the application.
May I ask you, the top center survey that you've included in your letter, what's the provenance of that survey? Where did it come from?
The three pieces together?
Yeah, the three across the top. So there's one in this. Where did it come from?
Each picture, it's in the
application.
They're in the application. The one that
They submitted it.
You're saying that this was submitted by Big Ram?
In the original application.
In the original application, okay. I'm trying to ask you where it came from, because it's.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I didn't make up any data. I only put it together.
I would appreciate it if you could just point me to where I might find it.
Yeah.
It's part of the application, Chip, so do we have a complete application here? Or is this the original application and we only have the.
Right, well, that's what
I didn't bring my copy of the original.
With the submission.
With this submission?
Submission?
With the submission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Helpful, fine.
The page with the purple ink on it came with the submission.
I know, that's the bottom one, the top three.
We have a survey.
Got that.
Yeah, I don't have that copy with me.
What time are you going out there?
Matt, you're gonna have.
Bill? Sorry?
I have it.
We're looking for the application that has the copy of the.
Like the survey, which is also provided with both surveys as you go out.
Just does Christina have it in her file over this, or
So Matt, another note that, Matt, just to say, another note, that first survey, March 20th, 2021. In that triple page that I have the three of them marked out on one page.
Yes,
That first one was a submission of a survey done for the Rams Head Inn application.
Okay.
So that's the demarcation there. The second one is the one that was submitted for this application. And the third one is the one that was submitted for the site plan.
Okay, all right.
I put the labels above them, so you can see that that's
Yes.
where the source.
So this is November 5th. Here, on the large one.
2021. She denoted November 2021.
That's the mean on.
Didn't have an
That's the
application for this doc, didn't it?
521 mark.
This is the survey that's come in with this.
Steps.
So this is it. So I think that this matches.
My watermark. That's behind the.
Indeed, this is this one.
Just want to make sure I get the facts right.
Yeah, this is.
My watermark is way up.
Yeah, way upland.
Way upland.
They don't show the boulders on here.
And Chairman, got the mean, and my watermark is this right
Match. I mean,
I'm lost, Jim.
this is basically this is marked here. This line here. Respect. It's a mean high water. That's to do with the matching with. And it cuts in. Here's the pitch. I guess of the surveyed property, which is I guess underwater at this point. Let's look at this. Let's not look at the pins. Let's look at what the site map. Site plan. This is a site plan here.
If I just say what this one is here,
Yeah.
because there's no.
What is this?
More
That's
you can't be Dave. I feel you can't do it, then that's fine. But I have to.
Gotcha.
I gotta do.
waterfront.
Right, so noted.
I would tend to agree.
John, you should
Those are
probably
different.
wrap this up. Is it?
Yeah, so
Ready to be voted?
outstanding
I don't,
staking according to the code.
that's what he does, it's an all
I
answer.
think I'd like to take a look at the high water.
That's sort of like a long thing.
I think that has to be put to rest, yes.
You know, the definitions of mean high water.
May or may not have some bearings on this path.
Averaging period is, and when that period is. So it's totally possible that somebody could be taking this from.
This is March 2021, I guess. March 1st, yep.
John, I'd recommend that you make
So
a
it's totally a legitimate thing, it's just the question is, what do we believe?
I think we need to table this for now.
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
I think we gotta visit the site.
We need to table this for now. Get some more, get this high water mark thing agreed upon and be able to do the staking.
I just want to put it on public record that I'm respectfully requesting a vote from this committee. So that's where I'll leave it, and I'll do whatever.
Instead of
Decide the table, and I'll do more staking, but I'm requesting is a.
Well, do you all hear that?
If you're doing it.
You're requesting both.
Yes, but
Right.
you guys gotta be. Respectfully requesting a vote.
I don't have enough information, I believe, to do that.
Then you make a motion to table the vote, that information is supplied, if that's what you so desire.
Does anybody want to make a motion to table the vote?
I make a motion to table it. There's not enough information here.
Anybody want to second that? Okay, motion carried.
We have to vote.
Anyone objects?
No, I'm voting for the motion.
You have to do the all in favor.
Beg your pardon?
There was a motion, a second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Aye. Motion carried. On a motion to adjourn. Well, who's going to go tomorrow? 4:30.
We'll go.
4:30?
Yep.
Where do you want to meet?
There's only gonna be one snake at the end of ducks, I can't do tomorrow. I got.
No, this is to check out the high water.
For the high water.
I can't reconcile these three surveys with what Pam has in her letter.
Sean, where do you want to meet?
Don't we have to discuss that?
Am I getting?
The old Causeway dock.
Yeah.
I don't know, down at the old Causeway dock.
Causeway dock. How are we going to get there?
Bill, I found some of them, actually.
Yeah, you were able to back them up?
Then we can walk along the beach. Now, get on anybody's private property.
Hey, guys, have a good day.
All right.
All right.
Motion to adjourn, anybody?
Oh, yeah, I'm all about that. Motion to adjourn.
Talking about dock relief?
Dock relief.
Yeah, we'll see.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed here.
Look, I've had enough for one night.
So, yeah, I don't know who put it on the agenda. Was this from the town? I mean, was
I
it?
did.
Did it? Oh. Start out real fast. As far as what we discussed last time and looking at studying the code and what we should be doing here, my thought was, and I'll just throw it out there for you guys to think about, and we'll talk about it between now and the next meeting or the next meeting, which to maybe put together a few subcommittees, one for shoreline review, just to look at objective issues to deal with the shoreline as far as depth, obstructions, exposure, and setback between properties. I had a couple of different people in mind for that. I'll offline talk to them about who I thought would be good for that. Other code reviews, other municipalities and so forth. Be part of it, one subcommittee. The third one would be the Shelter Island code review to go through and try to identify flaws in the current code. And then finally, design issues, things like boat lifts, things that are not addressed in our current code, chalking.
Yeah.
Splashboards, yep. And then two people who, know a lot about construction and docks might be good for that. But, so.
Would proximity to town landings come in under any of those?
Yeah, that's a good.
A shoreline review.
Shoreline review, I mean, you're gonna have to look at every different,
Surrounding area.
just like we were telling that guy.
Yeah, okay.
really good.
Thanks, Bill, that's a good, I like that
I
break.
was just gonna say four of these things.
There's like 2 people on each subcommittee.
We'll say,
Like if you had a committee.
I'm sure Al's gonna jet
You have
home.
7 and one's in Italy.
Yeah, well,
May you prioritize 2 top of the 4 and then take the second 2 with the new. Working on all 4 of these things at once might be difficult. But if you take your top 2, which may be a review of the other municipalities right off the bat to find out what they're doing.
What about some CAC involvement? Is there anybody on that committee who could help you with the shoreline assessment maybe? I don't know, we'll have to think about it. So maybe you could beef that working group up a little bit with some.
Or that group that the town.
Shoreline
line,
access
SAF,
task force.
SAFT, whatever, SATF. or-
Shoreline access would be,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Big or,
Oh, or
yeah.
Peter Vilbig's not doing anything these days.
That's the only.
I also went through, sort of the point, I started looking at a sort of a GIS map of the tax map and marking docks adjacent to properties. So I went through once, came up with some different, yet another set of numbers than you were mentioning.
Yeah.
But so I'll go through and do another one. So we have a starting place of like what places actually have docks or reasonably identifiable docks from a satellite photo, which isn't necessarily.
All right, this is exactly how I wanted to spend my 52nd wedding anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
These 2 big ones.
Hey, Jim.
Congratulations.
Jim, Estes yet to come tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be home before 8 o'clock
This is the 4
bedtime.
meetings a day, so she's really not talking to me, talk to her lawyer.
A motion to adjourn,
So moved.
So moved.
so moved. In favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Aye.
Steve and Kyle,